What is Eternum? That depends on you.
We're going to start off today's videos talking about crafting in the Forge and attributes. So, starting off, we're going to talk about the Forge, right? The Forge is used to craft melee weapons, heavy melee weapons, weapons that require some type of metal, some type of refined wood, or wood period, and then some type of leather. These areas right here are special resources. Special resources are little like medallions you get from killing enemies randomly, very rare, and you can get them through chests, very rare. So these medallions apply a specific type of buff based on what the medallion is for. As you can see right here, this one is for Constitution. If I click on this one, it's going to add the attribute at a 100% chance of contribution. As you can see right here, attributes Constitution. If I take this off and I don't have anything equipped in this special perk area, it's going to give me a medium chance right off the bat at a random attribute. So a random chance at an attribute over here. So this is really good for target crafting. Let's say you're making a Constitution tank build. You need to craft an item. You want to find the medallion with Constitution on it. You're going to select the medallion. It's going to give you Constitution at a 100% chance. What you can also do is have no item here and use Azoth. Azoth is another way to give your items a random chance at having some type of perk, attribute, and gem slots. It tells you as well, increasing potential gear score with better materials allows you to add more Azeroth. So what that means is when you use higher tier resources, every resource has a tier, 1 to like 5 or 6, I think. The higher tier resource you use, the greater gear score it's going to have, as well as the greater amount of Azeroth you can put. Now, Azoth is a special resource as well that you get from doing quests. Some dungeons, I think, give them for like rewards on chests. Some chests may give them. Azoth is a resource you find this resource pretty frequently for doing just normal playing the game. Now, you could put up to 15, will increase the chance for just attributes. So as you can see right here before I click accept, my attributes is at a medium chance. If I click 15 and press accept, it's going to go to very high chance. It's going to give me a very high chance of a random attribute. Okay, random attribute. That doesn't mean one of these. That means like an attribute as like strength, intelligence, dexterity, focus. That's the type of attribute it is. These are perks. Now what you can do is you can add more Azoth to actually get a chance for a perk. As you can see right here, 30 increases the chance for an attribute by very high. And your perk 1, very high. Perk is one of these. So these are your perks. Some of these perks gives you attributes, which is what I was mentioning earlier, Constitution, Dexterity. But some of the perks give you some other type of extra benefit to using that weapon that has that perk. For example, Mortal Lifesteal. If you get this perk, you're going to get a chance of regaining health when you kill an enemy on a slow cooldown. I think it's like 5 seconds, every enemy. And the percent you get is like 3.5, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked too much into it, but I do know that's around what it is. Now, when you craft items, trick to do to max your crafting as fast as possible, because like I don't know if you guys remember from my other video I spoke about the skill level for every craft, right? So because this video right here is about the Forge, specifically the Forge, we're going to talk about everything and anything in the Forge. So right off the bat, as well with the skill levels, I'm going to tell you about the individual skill levels for everything. There's going to be a weaponsmithing skill, an engineering skill, and an armoring skill. Those are the 3 types of skills you can level up by using the Forge. Now, every skill does something different. If I press escape and I press K and I go to trade skills, I'm going to find weaponsmithing right here. I can click on it and it'll tell me at what level of weaponsmithing I will unlock this item. So this is the level you have to have, and this is the item you will unlock. Right side level, left side unlock. And your level is clear. Level 7 for me. I'm pretty dog right now. I haven't done any weaponsmithing. Moving on to the armoring. Armoring is another one you can level up from the Forge. Armoring, right side is the levels, left side are the unlocks. At level 0, you can craft any of these on the armoring. Now, we're going to move to the engineering. Engineering is the same thing as the other ones. And another thing I forgot to mention just a second ago is that when you click on these, actually will tell you where you can perform this skill upgrade, where you can craft items to level up this skill. Right here on the bottom left corner of my screen, you're going to see Workshop and Forge. You can level up your engineering by crafting in the workshop and crafting in the forge. There's 2 different areas you can craft to level up your engineering. Same thing for armoring. You can do outfitting station or forge. Same thing for weapons. Well, weaponsmithing, you can only do forge. So, outfitting station is used for, I believe, light wear, medium wear. You can't craft heavy armor at a outfitting station. So heavy armor is forge only. Outfitting station is light wear, medium wear. So if you're going like a light wear build, go to the outfitting station, max out your armor smithing. If you're going to wear medium build, go to the outfitting station, craft your medium build armor there. Back to the actual forge itself. As you can see, these are skill locked. Right now, these are the ones I have available because they're all 0. The only reason why they're red and not white like this one is that this one I can craft. The red, I cannot. I'm missing resources. Right here it says 1 out of 7. I only have 1. And it'll even tell you on the right side, requirements, missing resources. Okay, so these are your unlearned crafting skills, or unlearned crafting items for the forge only. If you look at unlearned, it'll tell you the skill level required to craft this specific item. So at level 15, I'm going to be able to craft the standard repair kit. If you want to know the items beforehand to craft that, you can look by clicking directly on it. If I click on it like this, I can see, okay, when I do unlock it, I'm going to need 40 repair parts to create that standard repair kit. Let's go, for example, all the way down to the bottom. Let's just click on a random one right here, Star Metal Spear. If I want to make a Star Metal Spear, when I get to 100 engineering, I'm going to need these items. Tier 4 wood. As you can see right here, this is Tier 4 timber, wood. Every resource has a tier, as mentioned earlier, from 1 to like 6, I believe. Metal. This will take, I believe, any metal. If it just says metals, period, it'll take any metals. Leathers, it's leathers, period. So you see how directly this one says Tier 4 primary wood. I think actually the higher tier materials you use, the higher gear score you're gonna be able to make this weapon. So always use, if you're gonna use the weapon to use it, if you're crafting to use something, make sure you're crafting with the highest tier possible. So by checking that, you just click on the tier or the material you need, click on it, and it'll give you, if you had different tiers of the resource, it'll say right here, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and it'll show the resource. If you're going to make a weapon for yourself to use, make sure you're using the highest tier resource. Continuing on, we're going to look at your armoring. Armoring works the same way. As you can see, there's a clear difference in the materials needed between weapons and armoring. For weapons, you need wood, metal, and leather. For armoring, you're going to need cloth, leather, and metal. Cloth is a material you get from harvesting. That's as simple as it gets. The Forge, complete guide, right there. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, make sure you comment down below, and I will address them and read them as soon as possible. So, moving on to the next important thing of this video, attributes. Attributes are extremely important. Extremely important, all right? So we're going to press escape, go to K, and then go to attributes. Right here is literally going to be your most important thing of this game, is understanding your builds. If you are building healer, you should not be putting in points in strength, okay? And that is unless you're doing some crazy unknown meta stuff. You want to go with the stuff that's going to make you stronger for what you're doing, right? And focus, the little question mark is going to give you an advice, helpful tips for what that section is for. So intelligence, primary attribute for the fire staff and ice gauntlet. If you're using a fire staff or ice gauntlet as your primary weapon, as your weapon number 1, you want to make sure you're stacking intelligence. Now, underneath it, it says secondary attribute for the rapier and the musket. If you are using a rapier or musket as your primary weapon, you want to put points into dexterity. See? Primary attribute for rapier and musket. But if you don't want to go 100% dexterity and you want some intelligence for these little buffs that it gives you. So every 10, I believe, or no, every 50 points you put into something is going to give you a buff. So let's say you go 100% dexterity and you get all the way to 300 points. You get the maximum buffs you can, because every circle on this line is a different buff you can get with increasing points. So 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. The reason why they say secondary attribute is because let's say you don't want to put 100% for this last buff, right? You don't want to do all your points for that last buff. If you want to split your points and go 50-50, you can also get these buffs just from intelligence. You know, 10% harvest speed, 10% light damage attacks, 10% critical hit damage. You know, that's good. Critical hit is good for a rapier and musket. Harvest speed is good, period. Light and heavy magic attacks. So that's probably not going to be worth for someone who's doing a rapier musket. But the harvest speed is really good, and that's usable for literally anyone. And the critical hit damage is amazing for rapier and musket. If you continue going forward, you probably don't want to go past the second one. 15% elemental damage. You're not really doing elemental damage with a rapier. I don't think bleed counts as an elemental damage. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. Let's see. 10 mana after a dodge. I mean, rapier people dodge pretty frequently. I think they get stamina regaining abilities too. So when you dodge and you use a rapier ability, it might give you back stamina. So this might be good, but that's a lot of required points to go into that, to actually reach that specific ability. So my personal opinion would stop at the critical hit damage, because 10% critical hit damage is amazing. That's a lot of damage. So moving on, we're going to look at the primaries for dexterity. It's going to be your bow, your rapier, your spear, and your musket. It's a secondary for your sword and your hatchet. Going off of personal opinion, I'm going to suggest you max out an entire attribute just to see how it feels using that final buff, right? Because you are going to be able to get to, I would say, 150 points fairly easy, right? You're gonna reach 150 points within like your first 10 hours of playing. Actually, within your first like 25 hours of playing, because I play this game frequently, so for me, 10 hours is feels a lot different than what it would be for someone else. So for someone else, probably 20 hours playing, you're gonna be able to reach 150 points. From 150, you can get 50% stamina damage if you're going strength only from a melee weapon or heavy attack, a light or heavy melee weapon attack. That is so good. That's 50% stamina damage. That is amazing. 10% minus of weighted mining items. So if you're going strength and you're mining, you're going to get minus 10% of that weight of those items you have total for those mining items. So like iron, metals, stuff like that. That's amazing, because metals in this game weigh a frick ton. I mean, a frick ton. You're going to be literally moving like a snail because your book bag is full and you have a bajillion iron in your book bag. So definitely that is amazing. Right here, 10% damage to melee weapon heavy attacks. Amazing. 20% encumbrance. Amazing. 20 encumbrance. All these buffs get increasingly better as you go. For majority of the time, the further buff on the furthest right is going to be much more useful than all these other buffs. So, light and heavy damage attacks with a melee weapon gain grit. That is ridiculously strong. Grit in this game means that you can't be staggered when you're hit, and your light and heavy attacks are gritted. That is amazing. Light attacks with grit means that you cannot be stopped from attacking. You are non-interruptible. In this game, you can attack someone and get hit, and it'll stop you from attacking. Same thing with heavy attacks. You can be stopped in there. If you have grit on your attacks, you're literally a bulldozer. You're not going to be stopped. So that's going to be your strength. Oh, that's going to be your strength. This is going to be primarily for your sword and shield users, your great axe users, your great hammer, or your warhammer users, your hatchet users, and your spear users. I will be going into individual weapons in more detail in a different video, but for right now, we're just going to go over the primary attributes. So next, dexterity, your spears, your muskets, your rapiers, your bows, your hatchets, your sword and shields. Okay, so as you can see here, sword and shield is strength primary. Your primary for this one is for bow, rapier, and spear. Now you can do some crazy stuff. The reason why I mention this is because you can do some crazy stuff in this game. Let's say you have sword and shield, but you want dexterity for the crit. You can go full DPS dexterity crit with a sword and shield if you go down the dexterity line, because it tells you the secondary attribute for sword and shield. You don't have to do strength only for sword and shield. Even though it says it's the primary attribute, you don't need to. There's nothing in this game that's telling you you have to. You can go straight down dexterity, have all these, you know, crit buff, thrusting damage, hasting, makes you move faster, dodging causes less damage. You can get all these buff with a sword and shield if you do this primarily for sword and shield. So that right there is super useful. I would highly suggest looking at different builds. Right now, there might be like minimal build guides. I might do some build guides myself, but right now, I would just highly suggest trying out everything as much as possible to really get a feel for what works for your playstyle, because this game is so diverse in weapons and playstyle. There's probably never going to be a meta because everything's going to be usable. So yeah, so definitely look into what you feel like playing or what works for you. So another tip I would give, which I gave earlier in my stream, is for your weapons. Get all your weapons to level 4. That way you have 3 abilities on every single weapon. That way you can try every weapon with the 3 abilities you have unlocked and really get a feel for which weapons you feel that you like. Because if you try the spear with no abilities, it's going to feel wonky. So you want to level up every weapon to 4 and then pick 2 weapons that you feel, okay, these abilities work really well for me. I'm going to do them. So I'm going to be giving that same advice in the video when I go into detail for weapons. But yeah, you definitely want to make sure you do that. Because those weapons are going to scale with your attributes, and that's going to be a massive thing in this game, is monitoring your attributes, making sure you're putting points into what you're supposed to be putting points into. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, make sure you leave them in the comments down below. Shout out to everyone who's watching my stream right now. I really do appreciate it. If you guys want to come watch my stream and watch me do these videos live, go to twitch.tv/theatrics. That's going to be it for this video today. Make sure you like and subscribe if you like the video. Definitely follow my Twitch for more content as well. Thank you guys.